All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Countdown to Orientation webinar. My name is Anna Herbert. I'm a member of the admissions counseling team here at MSU. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping things. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties right now, these are our instructions. Mainly if you're having trouble or difficulty hearing the audio, you can call in by your phone, toll free at 1-855-797-9485. One additional thing for you guys, we have several members of our orientation staff as well as our admissions team here today. If you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, they're all on hand to answer your questions. To do that, you can access the Q&A feature. To get to the Q&A feature, if it is not automatically showing up on your screen, you're going to look at the bottom right-hand corner where there's 3 dots. Click on that. You'll see Q&A, select that, and that is where you can ask any of your questions, and our staff is there to help you out. We will be doing a live Q&A at the end where we're bringing back some of the most popular questions of the day, so just know that you should stick around for that one as well. Without further ado, we are going to pass it on over to our presenters. So I'm going to hand you over to Shannon Bangan, our Director of Orientation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so my name is Shannon Bangan. I'm the Director of Orientation here at Montana State. A little bit about myself, I'm originally from Missoula, Montana, and I did attend MSU myself back in the day. After I graduated from MSU in 2016, I left for a little bit and moved to Virginia, and then I've moved back and been at MSU ever since, so about 7 years now. And I've been in this role and had the pleasure of running orientation for about the last 3. I am not alone though. You're going to hear from many staff members today that assist with the orientation program, 2 of which are going to be on today and chatting with you, and that's Raylin and Aaron, and I'll let them introduce themselves as well. Raylin and Aaron, do you guys want to say hi?
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Raylin, and I'm the program coordinator here for the Orientation and MSU Friday programs at MSU. I moved to Bozeman about 1.5 years ago. I'm originally from upstate New York, and probably like many of you will experience shortly, I came here and then I just couldn't leave. So I moved here within 6 months. It's such a beautiful area. So I love Bozeman, and MSU has been a great place to be.
Hi everyone, my name's Erin. I am the new student program specialist here at MSU. Like Raylin, I'm also a little new to Bozeman as well, but yeah, it's been great.
Awesome, thank you guys. At this point in time, I'll show you kind of what we're running through for today's webinar. So we are going to talk a little bit about what the orientation program is, what it entails, and what to expect. That includes everything from the format of the program, the online portion, as well as the in-person component, how you can register for orientation and what that looks like, and then some of the details about the sessions themselves. As Anna mentioned, we do have a live Q&A going, so please chat in your questions throughout the program. And then at the end, we're going to be able to answer those as we go. So with that, I do also want to highlight, we are just 3 members of the orientation team. We do have about 60 orientation leaders that we employ. So these friendly faces here on the screen are going to be the ones to welcome you to campus when you join us at orientation. They are current students that are trained throughout the entire semester leading up to orientation, and then they actually assist with the facilitation of the program itself. And so it's a really wonderful opportunity for our current students to be able to speak to new students about their experience, what they wish they would have done, and they essentially serve as a mentor for you throughout the program. So I do always just like to highlight that, of course, you get to hear from staff members today, but when you come, you'll actually be interacting and engaging with a lot of our students as well. Okay, so to kind of start in terms of what orientation is, what's the foundation of our program? Orientation is a campus-wide effort. I definitely couldn't pull off my job alone. We currently partner with all different resources and services across campus, academic advisors, and so many others to make our program so successful. The goal of orientation is to make sure that you have a foundational understanding of what MSU is and what it can offer you. That's everything from your academic experience through to the experience that you're having outside of the classroom, extracurriculars, making friends, making sure that you're part of our community. And so really the vision of the program itself is that by the time that you leave orientation, you're not only registered for classes, but you also have all of the information that you need to be successful. So it kind of serves as a launch pad for the rest of your success here at MSU. So for this upcoming summer, in terms of our format, what you can expect, all students are required to participate in orientation. So all incoming undergraduate students, regardless of whether you're a transfer student, a new student, veteran, international student, all students come through our program. And the reason for that is because we do really find that it's so valuable for students to receive this information to be successful here at MSU. It's viewed as a student's intent to enroll. We often get a lot of questions from students and parents throughout the college search process about how they can commit to MSU. Do we have an enrollment deposit? What does that look like? Essentially, by signing up for orientation, you're telling us that you'd like to join us at MSU and you're saving your seat in our incoming class. And so when you sign up for orientation, that's you kind of signing your name on the dotted line, letting us know that you're joining us. And there are actually two components to the orientation program, one of which is online and one of which is in person. So we do have an online pre-orientation that essentially is a online orientation kind of pathway, if you will. And when you progress through these items, it's a lot of things that are preparing you for the in-person orientation experience. So a lot of transactional items. With that is required before you actually join us for our in-person program. And so we launched that pretty early in the summer. You'll see the dates there on the side of the screen. We launched pre-orientation as early as May 1 to give you as much time as possible to complete it before you come to campus. We then have an in-person orientation. Those are 2.5 days, and there are 4 of them throughout the summer. There are 2 in June, 1 in July, and then 1 in August that is hosted right before school starts. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what those programs entail. I also always like to highlight that we do have an optional parent and family program. It runs concurrently to our student program, so you hear a lot of the same information as your student, but maybe just at different times. So you don't necessarily overlap a ton with your student, but it's an opportunity for you to also feel like you're getting all the information you need to support your student during their time at MSU. In terms of the online pre-orientation, so I mentioned that it launches May 1st. It is hosted in a platform that we call Cats Connect. Cats Connect is actually the platform that our Office of Student Engagement uses. And so it's a platform that you're going to use throughout your 4 years at MSU. It's where all of our clubs and organizations are, our community service events. And so it's a really nice way to kind of get introduced to that system. As you log into online orientation, it's essentially set up as modules that you can progress through based on your own schedule. So it's self-paced. You don't have to log in at certain times. All we ask is that you complete it in preparation for your in-person orientation. And so a lot of the things that you can expect in here are learning about our technology, turning in transcripts, confirming your major, making sure that you have all the information on file that we need for you to then register for classes during orientation. The deadline to complete pre-orientation does vary based on the orientation session itself. And so for our June and July sessions, we ask that you complete pre-orientation the Wednesday before. For our August session, we ask that you actually complete it by July 10th, because that then gives our advisors kind of a head start to then be able to help you through class registration. For our in-person orientation, these are essentially 2.5-day programs that are hosted here on the MSU campus in Bozeman. They are full packed from first thing in the morning till well into the evening. It includes everything from information sessions, tours, there's an info fair. You have the chance to chat with an advisor and get a little bit more one-on-one time, talk about class registration. And then on the last day is actually when you register for classes. So it really is educational and informative, but at the exact same time, you're going to be divided into groups based on your major. And so it's a huge opportunity for you to meet your future classmates. When it comes to orientation, when we ask students their favorite part at the end, 1,000,000 times over, they always just say meeting other students and getting the chance to connect with other incoming Bobcats. And so it's a really wonderful opportunity for you to meet a ton of different folks that are going to be your peers for the next 4 years. As I mentioned, we do divide students up based on their area of study. So you'll essentially be in a group anywhere from like 15 to 20, 25 students, and then you're headed up by an orientation leader. And so it might be a bunch of nursing students together or students that are in the College of Engineering. And so you have the opportunity to connect with these students that are also then going to be in your classes this upcoming fall. During those sessions, you do stay on campus. And so for our June and July sessions, you're required to stay on campus for Monday night and Tuesday night. And so lodging is provided as part of the program. You don't have to book additional lodging. You're staying with us in our residence halls. And then dining is provided from Monday at lunchtime through breakfast on Wednesday. So essentially 6 meals fit into those 2.5 days. With that, you're not staying in your assigned residence hall that you're going to be staying in for the fall semester. Instead, we have you staying in groups in a residence hall here on campus. So it does kind of give you a different taste of what to expect before you actually then move in August. There is a cost associated with orientation. I always like to highlight it's about $135 for our students. With that, that covers everything from programmatic costs, such as orientation leader pay and mailing and materials, all the way through to your lodging and meals. And so that is just a one-time cost. It covers everything from lodging and dining as part of that fee. If you do have any concerns around that fee or don't feel like you can pay that at this time, please reach out to us. We do have a form in which you can fill it out if you have financial need, and we're happy to work with you as well. In terms of the schedule, diving a little bit more into what to expect. As I mentioned, you stay in the residence halls, eat in the dining halls. You are going to be in a group, and with that group, they then essentially facilitate the entire program. So you're going with your group from session to session. You have a little bit of downtime and free time in the afternoons on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, first thing in the morning is when you register for classes. And so that's really your opportunity to go into the computer lab, sit down, raise your hand if you need help. An academic advisor will come and chat with you, and we'll make sure that you get your class schedule before you leave campus. One of the most frequently asked questions that we get is, how can I plan travel? If I register for orientation, I want to book my flights now. So we always encourage students that we are going to be checking in students on Monday morning from 8 to 10:30, and that it will conclude at the latest at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. That one's a little funny because it's at the latest, but it depends on your registration time, and registration's taking place throughout the entire morning. And so you'll be set and ready to go and leave campus certainly by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, if not earlier. One of the most common questions that we do get is the difference between our summer programs and our August program or our fall program. So I always like to kind of provide this grid so you can actually compare side by side what to expect. So during our June and July sessions, you're essentially completing online pre-orientation by the Wednesday prior. So you're completing that piece earlier in the summer and committing to that. During orientation, you have the chance to connect with faculty, staff, academic advisors. You stay in the halls, and your orientation groups are really hands-on. So you definitely get to know your group as well as your orientation leader. And then you're participating in a variety of info sessions, meet and greets, tours, all that good stuff. During in-person orientation in June and July, that is when you actually schedule and register for classes. So you're registering for classes during your in-person session. And so it's the opportunity for you to kind of complete all necessary enrollment items well before the semester begins. In terms of August, since that's right before school starts, we have kind of a modified format. Essentially, you have to complete pre-orientation by July. The reason for that is because we actually pre-register our students into a class schedule for August. And so you still have the opportunity certainly to come to our in-person orientation and connect with staff, hear from different information sessions, meet other students, but it's a little bit more hands-off just because it aligns with the start of school. So rather than you registering yourself during in-person orientation August 18th through the 20th, instead, we're going to ask that you complete online pre-orientation by July 10th, and then our advisors get to work. They take all of the information that you've provided during pre-orientation, they'll go build a schedule for you, and then we release those about a week in advance. It's usually mid-August. You are then still required to come to in-person orientation August 18th through the 20th. And that's where we would make any necessary schedule adjustments. You'll still connect with an advisor, and you'll certainly still have the chance to meet other students during that process. During both of those programs, there is a parent and family component, and during both of those, you'll have the opportunity to engage in MSU debut events. We'll talk a little bit more about what MSU Debut is a little bit later, but it's essentially a series of welcome events that kick off right in August. So I know this is a big grid to look at. The main takeaway is that if you come in June and July, you're going to register during your in-person orientation. If you come in August, you are going to complete pre-orientation, including a questionnaire. Advisors take that information, they register you for classes, and they release it before you come to your in-person orientation. We've talked a little bit about the parent and family component, so I do just want to highlight a few things there. If students register to attend during that registration form when they're completing it, they have the opportunity then to register their parent at the exact same time. As I mentioned, it coincides with the student orientation, but it is separate. We really see this as an opportunity for parents to support their student and still be present, but really empower them to take the first step forward in their own academic experience. Parents and family members are responsible for lodging and meals. A little bit later, we're going to touch on a few options and suggestions that we have for you there, but please know it's not built into registering for orientation. The cost for the parent and family orientation is $50 per family. And so it's a really excellent deal, especially if you're bringing multiple family members. That covers everything from programmatic costs again, as well as a parent and family social and a brunch that we host in the morning. Everything to expect on the parent and family schedule is going to be information sessions, tours, an opportunity to connect with other parents. And then again, you're going to check in with your student around that same time. So Monday morning, 8 to 10:30. I always like to highlight that the student program, of course, is required. They have to go through all of their required sessions and it's mandatory. Our parent and family program is totally optional based on parent interest and need. And so some parents and family members might come for the entire program and they love it. We get such great feedback on our parent and family orientation, but others might simply want to come just on Monday or might need to hop on a work call. And so it's completely pick and choose based on what's going on in your own schedule. And then you can kind of decide what works best for you. I will mention that if you're a parent or family member that can't join us at orientation, we do have a lot of other ways to support you as well. We will be sending out confirmation letters once your student registers, which includes a lot of information about resources, services, and what to expect. The Bobcat Parent and Family Program is managed through our Dean of Students office, and it is a well-loved program. It's your opportunity to stay informed and connected as a parent and also learn a little bit more about how to support your student. So you can certainly get involved in that program. One easy way is by adding yourself to the email distribution list. Our Dean of Students actually then sends out a notification about every month, just letting parents know what's happening on campus, upcoming events, things to be aware of, things that your students might have questions about. And so it's a great way just to kind of be informed as your student progresses through their 4 years at MSU. I have already gotten questions about parent and family weekend. Parents are eager, they are organized, and they are already putting it on their schedule. It's in October, and so that's definitely a time to come back and visit your student in their first semester. They host a variety of fun events and welcome events, and then they do also typically bring in one big kind of keynote speaker to welcome parents and family members as well. So all that information is on our Bobcat Parent and Family page. And we're certainly excited to welcome you back in October too. All right, with that, I am actually going to pass it over to my two colleagues here. They're going to walk you through a little bit more about how you can register for orientation now that you know what to expect. Orientation registration actually opens next week, February 15th, so you can't register yet, but these guys are going to walk you through how you can get prepared and what to expect, so when it does open, you can be the first one to sign up.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'll be giving more detail and kind of an overview on how to register for orientation and how you can see the details of your session after you sign up. So as Shannon said, as a reminder, it does open up on February 15th next week. So you can register for your session on that date. So you can find the instructions if you don't want to write all this down online. So there are two ways to access that. You can follow that link in red down there, or if you go to montana.edu and type in orientation registration instructions, it's that first link that comes up. So those are the two ways you can access those instructions. Okay, so here you can see what the instructions look like. So as you can see, there's 5 main steps to follow to register for orientation. And just a tip, you may want to keep this open on a separate tab while you walk through those 5 steps. So your first step is going to be accessing your MyInfo account. So you can do this by typing MyInfo into the search bar that we talked about before on the right on montana.edu. And it should be that first link that pops up. And the second step is going to be claiming your net ID. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. Okay, so your net ID and your student ID, they're 2 different numbers that you're going to be using a lot throughout your time at MSU. So your net ID is a combination of letters and numbers. You can see an example right there in red. And this is what you're going to use to sign into a lot of the MSU technology, including your MyInfo account. And your student ID number, which is also called your GID, is an 8-letter number. It starts with a dash. And so that can be found in your acceptance letter and your MyInfo account. Okay, so these are some examples of what it's going to look like when you log into your MyInfo account. So the first 2 pictures, those are the links that you're going to need to click to claim your net ID. And then the last photo there, that is what your login screen is going to look like. Okay, and this is your MyInfo homepage. So you're going to want to click this undergraduate admissions checklist at the top. So you're going to go there first. Okay, so once you click the undergraduate admissions checklist, that's what you're going to see. So there's a lot of helpful information on here, and it's a good way to keep track of what you need to do before you arrive at MSU. So the check boxes on the left, you can't actually check them off yourself. They are checked off when we receive the item in our system. So you can't actually check it off yourself. So as you scroll down, you'll see the page on the right. So that is the orientation/class registration section. So this is where you're actually going to register for orientation. So you see that circled there, it says click here to register for orientation/class registration. So that's where you're going to start for that. Okay, and this is the actual registration page. So it'll bring you to this page. It should auto-populate your student ID right there. That's that first box. So what I would suggest is to make sure that all of your personal information and contact information is correct in there so that you don't miss out on any information. And it is recommended that students and parents are on the same page about what session you're attending, so there's no confusion down the road. Okay, so as you scroll down on the page, you'll come to this section. So this is where you can actually choose the date of the session that you want to attend. So this form is interactive in that if you don't put all of the information, if you don't put in all the information above, you're not going to be able to click the dates. They're not going to show up. So you do have to put in all that information before you can click and select a session. Yes, so then as you go down, you'll see a couple boxes that you'll need to check off. So the first one is just agreeing that you're going to stay on campus for orientation, which is required. The second one is letting us know of any accommodations you may need. And then that third section is your opportunity to let us know if your parent or family member wants to attend the parent or family orientation. Okay, so once you finish that, it's going to take you to the payment portal. So that's what the payment portal looks like. That $188 amount you see there, that includes the $135 orientation fee, plus the $50 parent and family orientation fee, and then there is a $3 processing fee. So something to keep in mind is that we do need to receive this payment before we can process your registration. So we cannot sign you up for orientation until that payment has been completed. So once that's done and you press continue, you'll see this confirmation page. You can see it on the right there. It also has a link that's circled where you can find more information about your session. Okay, so once that's completed, you can go back into your undergraduate admissions checklist that we talked about before in your MyInfo account, and it will have your confirmation page link. So that's circled up there. It will say click here to view your orientation confirmation page. But one thing to keep in mind is that it is not instantaneous. So depending on when you sign up, it could take a couple days, but you will get a confirmation letter in the mail as well. Okay, and for additional accommodations, we do offer a waiver, as Shannon mentioned before, a fee waiver for those who display financial need. So in order to do that, you can email us at orientation@montana.edu to request that. There's also the summer conference housing. So this is for students or family that want to stay Sunday night before orientation and or the Wednesday after orientation. So that is available. It is $50 per night. So there's the link there if you want to sign up for that. And lastly, we have additional accommodations through our Disability Services office. So you can let us know of any accommodations that you need on that registration form, and you can also email us at orientation@montana.edu.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Just before Raylan jumps in, I do also want to highlight for that summer conference housing piece that is also available to our parents and family members. So we understand that sometimes coming to visit for a number of days can be a little pricey, or maybe you want to have the experience of staying in a residence hall again to see what your student is going to enjoy in the fall. And so if parents and family members want to stay in the residence halls during orientation, they can also request that option through that summer conference housing page. So whether it's students arriving early, staying late, or parents and family members, all of that information is through that link there on the screen. Awesome. And now we're going to turn it over to Raylan to chat a little bit more.
Great. Thank you so much, Shannon. So after students complete registration and prepare to attend orientation, there are a few items that you'll want to review prior to that in-person session. So first, you will definitely want to make note of that Net ID and your student ID, as Erin mentioned. You will use both of these IDs throughout your time here at MSU. And using that Net ID, you will want to log into your MyInfo account and review that undergraduate admissions checklist and your orientation confirmation page, because these pages have all the details regarding your admissions requirements and those orientation sessions that you registered for. Your undergraduate admissions checklist will also have information for sending any school transcripts that you have, test scores, or any college level credits that you'd like to be evaluated. Once you have those, as Erin mentioned, those boxes will be checked off once we receive them. There's also information on your immunization records, and we will need those as well prior to your orientation. We also recommend that you review and update your preferred email address, especially if you have a student email from your school. You want to make sure that you update it to an email address that will be used for you moving forward. That's the best for you. Another thing you'll want to do is to confirm your major, because as Shannon said, during your orientation sessions, you will be separated out by your major groups. So you can go ahead and look on there to confirm that is what you want to be enrolled in. Okay, so before your in-person orientation, you'll be required to complete that online pre-orientation that Shannon had talked about, which will review a lot of great information that you'll need to know before your in-person session, such as an overview of MSU technology platforms, as well as completing your math and writing placement. The due date for online pre-orientation will vary based on which session you select. So all students will have access to pre-orientation starting May 1st. But then if you're, depending on what session that you attend, it will vary based on your due date. So that first session, which is our June 10th to 12th session, will be due 5 days prior to your in-person session. So that's June 5th. The second session, again, that's 5 days prior for June 24th to 26th. So that's going to be June 19th. And then if you're attending the third or fourth session, so the July and August, that due date is going to be July 10th. And we touched on a little bit about how the August due date does change a little bit because of the registration process. We also have our MSU debut program that kicks off, which I'll touch base on just in a moment. Another reminder is that starting August 1st, students will be able to participate and purchase their parking permit through MyInfo. So as you can see, your MyInfo account is going to be a lot of information for your orientation. You'll be logging in there a lot. You will also want to confirm your bill by your 15th day of classes, which you can do. All right, the MSU debut that I talked about. So this is a series of events hosted throughout the first few weeks of school to really get you into the Bobcat spirit and welcome you to MSU and the Bozeman community. So there are some great and fun things to do, such as painting the M on the mountainside of the College M Trail, which is a long-standing student tradition. There's also Catapalooza, which is an info fair event where we set up in the quad, and there's a bunch that showcases our community and campus organizations and clubs that students can participate in. And you can get a lot of great packets and flyers and t-shirts, and it's a really, really fun event to really kick off the school year. There's also a pep rally downtown and the Gold Rush football game. And so this is a good reminder that sporting events are free for students to attend, so you want to snag those tickets. We also have your first year convocation to celebrate the start of your MSU journey, as well as Service Saturday, which is a great way for students to connect with Bozeman community organizations to come together and do a full service day. And that's just a few of the things that MSU debut has to offer. All right, and at this time, we're going to transition to our frequently asked questions. So please continue to chat in and we can get those questions answered for you. But to start, Shannon, Aaron, and I will review a few of the most common questions that we do receive. So the first one here is, how do I know what classes I need to register for? So during your in-person orientation session, students will meet with an academic advisor who will review your math placement and your writing placement. They'll review your specific degree requirements and discuss your course registration. Also, during your pre-orientation, you'll be introduced to MSU resources that will help you through your course registration, such as our course catalog, as well as DegreeWorks, which is a tool that students use to track the progress of their degree throughout their time here at MSU. And then I'm going to turn it over to Shannon if you want to take the next question.
Yeah, so a really common question that we get is, do I have to stay on campus during orientation, even if I live in Bozeman? Ultimately, yes, we ask that students are participating in the program fully and staying in our residence halls for that Monday and Tuesday night. You will be staying in a residence hall that we assign you to just for the program. So again, it's not necessarily the room that you're going to be placed in this fall. And we will be placing you based on your orientation group. So you will be placed with your orientation leader, your orientation group on a floor. We always match students up based on their gender, but we do always want to acknowledge that you might be placed on a co-ed floor during orientation, which has designated bathrooms and separate spaces based on like the wings of our residence halls. And so if you have any questions about staying on campus or any concerns around that, you can always reach out to us at orientation@montana.edu, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have there. So for this next one, I think Aaron might be muted.
Sorry.
But the next question is, can I register for classes before orientation?
Sorry about that. So can I register for classes before orientation? So you are not able to register for classes before your orientation session. So during orientation, students will be able to meet with an advisor that will help them register for courses. So you cannot sign up for classes unless you've fully participated in your orientation program. So during the June and July sessions, students are going to register for classes on that final day. And then for the August session, students are going to be pre-registered for classes, and that schedule is going to be released in mid-August. And although you will receive your schedule beforehand, you are still required to attend that orientation session in August.
Awesome. For this next question, this is probably the number one question that we get. Should we come earlier? Should we wait till August? Am I going to get my classes? What should we do? So are there benefits to coming to an earlier program? So during our June and July orientation, students essentially stay on campus. You have the chance to meet other incoming students, connect with staff and faculty, register for classes. You're basically completing all of your enrollment items well before the fall semester begins. And sometimes that puts students at ease because they've completed all those items early. I do always like to reassure students and family members that classes are gradually released throughout the summer. So all incoming students are going to have a comparable selection of classes to choose from. So all students, regardless of which orientation session they attend, will be registered for a full schedule of classes. With that being said, if you're really passionate about what your schedule looks like, by attending an earlier orientation, you may, of course, have more flexibility in your course scheduling. So for example, if you're an engineering student and you need calculus, we are always going to get you into calculus. But if you come to an earlier session, you might have more times or sections to choose from versus that August session where students or advisors are picking out the classes for you. And then I think this next one is, Erin, what if I need to change which session I want to attend?
Yeah, so if you need to switch your session after you have signed up, you can email us directly, again, at orientation@montana.edu. We can definitely move your session as long as that newly desired session isn't filled up by that point.
Awesome. So I'm happy to take this next one. What if I don't have my final transcript? This is also probably one of the number one questions that we get. I always like to clarify that for us, there's a major difference between your high school transcript and college level credit on a transcript. We do not need your high school transcript for orientation. We certainly need it on file, so please send it our way, but we don't need it by the very first orientation session. With that being said, we do encourage you to send any official test scores or transcripts that have college level credit directly from that institution or from that testing agency directly to the Office of Admissions. So that might be anything like dual enrollment, running start, AP, IB credit, any of those pieces. If you can't have any of that information on file by the time you attend orientation, we just always recommend that students have unofficial copies with them. So that might be printing out proof of your test scores, logging in front of us, having some kind of unofficial transcript with you. All of those pieces help us get you registered for the most appropriate courses. We do, of course, need all final official transcripts on file eventually, but we definitely don't need your high school transcript right out of the gate. And the most important thing we're worried about is anything that's going to award you college level credit and impact that class registration piece.
So the next question up here, do you have a set capacity for orientation sessions? So for sessions 1 through 3, which are those June and July sessions, there is a capacity set of 900 students. These sessions do tend to fill up quickly, so if there's one that works best for you and your family, we do recommend that you register early, which you are able to do starting on February 15th. That's session 4, which is the August session that coincides with move-in, does not have a capacity limit. So if you're unable to get into an earlier session that doesn't work for you, you will always be able to attend that August session. There's no capacity.
Okay. And when will I take my math placement or writing placement assessments? So there are 3 ways we can determine a student's math and writing placement. So that first one is your SAT or ACT scores, or if you have college level credit to transfer over, or by those math and writing placement tests. So those math and writing placement tests are included in your pre-orientation So we encourage students to send your test scores and your transcripts early and plan to take both of those tests during your pre-orientation. So we will always take your highest placement out of those three as well. So there's nothing to worry about there. So the pre-orientation launches May 1st, so you could get it done as early as May.
And this next question here, when must I complete online pre-orientation by? We did touch on this a little bit, but I want to review it again because it's important because they are varied for those different dates. So depending on what in-person session you attend, which all students will have access to starting May 1st, the June and July sessions will be that 5 days prior to your in-person session. So we will need that completed. As a reminder for that session 4, we also need that by July 10th. So our academic advisors can really take a look at that very detailed questionnaire that you're going to fill out if you're attending that session to be able to place you into those classes and get that schedule to you right before you come to your in-person session.
Awesome. And then the final question, can I get a copy of my orientation schedule in advance? We do have sample schedules that we like to post on our confirmation pages, just kind of allowing students and family members to plan in advance and know a little bit more. With that being said, we don't release final official schedules in advance, but those can always be picked up first thing when you check in on Monday morning, just so it has a little bit more information about where you're going, who's going to be taking you, and what that looks like throughout that 2.5 days. Alrighty, at this time, we are going to invite Anna back. She's going to do some live Q&A for us, so please keep chatting in those questions as you go. I do want to highlight before we stop sharing the screen, this is all of our personal contact information. If you need to reach out to any of us, please always shoot us an email, give us a phone call. We all manage the inbox for orientation at montana.edu. So if you email that one, that's the most basic way of getting in contact with any of us at any time. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We have a team of people ready to help you, and we look forward to seeing your registrations next week on February 15th.
Great, thank you, Shannon. One question first off that we are seeing a lot in the chat is just some people are wondering, if you could just clarify again exactly what time on February 15th and the time zone at which registration will be opening.
So it rolls overnight at midnight Mountain Time. And
Perfect.
last year I stayed up and watched it roll, and there were people who registered at like 12:04 Mountain Time. So people jump on and do it, but you have plenty of time to do that if you want to wait until the morning.
Yeah, so in addition to that, another question we were seeing a lot is, do you have just a rough ballpark of kind of around what dates sessions kind of start to fill up? We know there's limited space in those first 3. We have some parents expressing that their students still have to do their campus visit, so they're concerned that if they wait to register until March or later, what's a good timeline for them to register for if they are interested in one of those earlier sessions?
Yeah, Raylan, do you want to touch base on that one?
Yeah, we do start to see those sessions start to fill up in the first 6 to 8 weeks after that orientation starts. Because they are kind of our more popular sessions. But just a reminder that that August session will always be available to any student.
Yeah, and I will say that's typically the first 2, the 2 in June, because those are some of the most preferred dates. That July one doesn't typically fill up until a little bit later, and so we always see that one staying open a little bit longer than the first 2 as well.
Great, thanks guys. On that note also, do you have any word on which residence hall students will be staying in? Do they get any say in where they'll be staying?
I know which residence halls they might be staying in, but I'm not going to release that information yet because I won't speak on behalf of housing. But we do typically hold 2 residence halls throughout the orientation program, and then they don't have necessarily a say or a preference on where they're staying. It's just based on the 2 that we have available throughout the summer. As you can imagine, summer's a great time when we do a lot of maintenance and make sure that our buildings are ready. And so housing typically tells us exactly where they want us staying for those summer sessions. I will also mention that I commented on how parents and family members can also stay during orientation. They will be staying in a separate residence hall, so it's not with the student. And so when students come with their parents and family members, though you might stay with them the night before, or if you arrive early, you can certainly stay together. but students will be staying in their own residence hall with their orientation group on that Monday and Tuesday, separate from their parents, even if their parents are on campus.
Great. So on that note, then when they're staying on campus, when they have any free time, what other services or things do they have access to? Can they use the fitness center and facilities, the rec center?
Yeah, so we keep them really busy, I assure you. So they certainly can use our fitness centers during that time. We have our gyms open, and then we also have some like downtime scheduled in where if students want to just go back to their residence halls and take a break, or maybe sit out in the Romney Oval and enjoy the sun, they can certainly do that. We do also, during those downtimes, have a bunch of different things for them to check out, whether that be information fairs or root beer floats at the library or different optional tours. And so they have kind of their pick and choose options there on Monday afternoon and Tuesday afternoon. And
Great.
parents get root beer floats too. Parents get the root beer floats as well.
Yeah, while we're on the note of parents, could you guys just touch a little bit more on explaining the difference and the overlap between the student and the parent and family orientation? So for example, if the student is attending, how valuable is it, or is it necessary for those parents to attend as well?
Yeah, certainly. I know this might be a bit generic answer, but I think it really depends on the student and it really depends on the family. I actually have a very funny story about my own orientation. When I was growing up in Missoula, I decided with all my high school friends that we were going to attend the same session. And so we all jumped into the car together and left at 6 in the morning and drove to Bozeman. And I was off. I was on my own. I was a cool college kid. And then actually during my orientation, I walked out of the conference room and walked down the hallway and I saw my mom. And I was mortified as to why she was there, and she did not tell me she was coming, but she had actually separately registered for the parent and family orientation. And so she wanted to drive over and felt like it was important for her to get that information, but she also did not want to squash my college experience as a cool college kid. And so she drove over separately and let me have my own experience, and I didn't even know she was there, which is funny. So with that all being said, I think it really depends on the student, it really depends on the family. A lot of the information might be similar, or you might be hearing from a lot of the same presenters. However, it's much more focused towards parents and family members and how to support your student, things that come up or things that students aren't even prepared might come up, but you as a parent might know that they need that support or that things are coming. And so it's more kind of from that framework or from that perspective. There's also a lot of opportunities for you to connect with other parents and connect with faculty and staff. And so a lot of our family members really appreciate that piece as well.
Great. Yeah, on that note then, when and where would a student receive information about the online orientation for transfer students?
For transfer students
Yes.
specifically?
Yep.
Yeah, Erin, do you want to touch on that one? And you are muted again, my dear.
Sorry, guys, I can't get that. So for transfer students, again, there is that required online orientation. So you can sign up for that on February 15th as well. It will be available May 1st, and we will be sending emails to you regarding that session.
Great.
Yeah, for transfer students, they complete an online orientation. The difference between like a freshman student experience and a transfer student experience is that our students that are transfer students actually do a virtual meeting with advisors and connect online and register for classes virtually. And then they are invited to in-person programming once school starts in August. And that includes meet and greets, tours, information sessions, and all those pieces too. And so there isn't an in-person component available for transfer students over the summer, but it's built into August after they've registered virtually.
Great. Yeah, one thing, so we've talked a lot about when the orientation registration opens. Is there a specific date that registration closes or that a student has to be registered by?
That's an excellent question. No, we actually don't close registration until 5 days into the semester. Don't be that person. Don't register for orientation 5 days into the semester. However, we actually let students decide when they're coming to MSU all the way up until the first day of classes, until the semester kicks off. We really see it as a student's unique journey throughout the college search process, deciding when they're ready to come. And so we want to make sure that anyone that desires the opportunity to pursue education has the opportunity to do so up until pretty much the last minute.
Yeah, that's great. So then once they are registered and they get all signed up and pre-orientation launches, how much time should a student typically plan to put towards that pre-orientation? Is that something they should do the night before? Is that something they should be prepared to do months in advance?
Yeah, Raylan, do you want to touch on that one?
Yeah, that does truly depend on the student and how much time it might take to walk through that material. But I would suggest, walking through the modules at least an hour to go through that. And if you are doing the math and writing placement, if you don't have those transfer credits, I would also dedicate an hour to each of those. So potentially it could be about a 3-hour process if you're doing the entire pre-orientation, the writing placement, and that math placement. Like I said, about an hour each.
And you certainly don't have to complete it all at once. We actually do encourage students to kind of do it step by step, take a couple days to take it all in, because it's a lot of information, of course, that's going to impact your orientation and your start here at MSU. And so taking a break is always suggested too.
Great. Yeah, and then with that too, if a student's still debating, maybe they're coming to one of our MSU Friday programs coming up, maybe they're coming for a campus visit later, can they choose to register for orientation on campus in person, or is that exclusively through the online system?
Yeah, sorry, to clarify, you're saying register for classes or register for orientation?
Register for the orientation session.
Yeah, we do actually recommend that they use the online form. We can, of course, help you through that form when you're here in person and answer questions, but you do actually have to fill out some personal information about classes you've taken and things like that. And so it's a little bit easier if you're doing it on your own computer at home. They do also then pay for orientation at that same time. So sometimes just being at home, being able to edit that credit card information, click it all in is a little bit more comfortable than us trying to take that all down in person.
Great. Another question we've seen a little bit is, do you guys know how orientation works for student athletes? For example, is there a specific session they're supposed to go to? Is there a specific time they move in during the summer? Are they in separate dorms for themselves?
Yeah, so in general, our student athletes, we always encourage them to work directly with Bobcat Athletics and their specific coach, because the answer to that question does vary based on the team that you're participating in and what your coach prefers. So for example, football, they actually start their football and volleyball actually start their summer workouts early, and you might be moving here early. And so in that case, you would be staying in a specific residence hall already moved onto campus, and then working with your coach as to how that fits into their schedules of practices and what orientation looks like. Ultimately, all of our student athletes come through our orientation process. A large group of them do participate in our second session, but my number one recommendation is always just communicating directly with your team, because they typically have preferences that they help you with, and they'll navigate some of those pieces along your side, kind of helping you through that.
Great. Yeah, and then while we're kind of on that note, if a student has active orders from the military that's going to affect their ability to attend their in-person orientation session, who do they reach out to about registering for those classes?
Yeah, so we do actually have a veteran orientation. So depending on the military status of the student, if you're a member of National Guard, active duty military, anything like that, when you fill out the registration form, it actually allows you to self-identify that, and then you will participate in veteran orientation. Veteran orientation is online, very similar to transfer orientation, and then there's an in-person component that aligns with August. So we help you through that piece. We're happy to help you out if you have questions there. If it's just something where you might be arriving to campus late, we would just recommend that you reach out to our office, and we're happy to answer some of those questions a little bit more directly depending on your circumstance.
Great. So for the students that end up attending that fourth session that coincides with move-in weekend, are they able to move into their dorms early? Is that something they do at the same time as orientation?
Yeah, Raylan, do you want to touch base on that one?
Yeah, so when students come for that session, they will actually be moving into their dorm, their assigned dorm on that day. So that's versus in the other sessions, they will be placed with roommates. The fourth session, they'll be able to get right into their room, get everything settled during that time.
Yeah, so this year, since our fourth session is August 18th through the 20th, essentially those OF4 students, those students that are signed up for our last session, move in on Saturday, the 17th, and then they can fully participate in the program Sunday and Monday. And then Tuesday, we kind of start to, it's a little bit of a lighter schedule. And Tuesday is also when our M photo is scheduled this year and convocation. So it kind of rolls you right into some of those MSU debut events.
Great. So one other thing then, at orientation, is a student able to see or tour the actual dorms, the ones they either applied for, or maybe if they've already received their housing assignment?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we do have students obviously staying in two particular residence halls during orientation. So if you are living in those two, then you actually get a sneak peek of what your experience is going to look like. If you're not staying in those residence halls, then we actually do have all of our other residence halls open during a specific time block where we invite students to then go down and tour a residence hall room and see what that looks like, just so then they can visualize the space, maybe how they want to bring their materials, what do they want to pack when they come back in August. And so it does kind of give them some insight into what to expect since they have the chance to tour those facilities.
Great. And I know you've answered this one a few times, but just so we kind of clarify it again for everyone, is a student able to register for their classes before attending their orientation session?
No. Orientation is a required piece. You actually don't get any of your orientation, like your PIN or your registration time or any of those things until you've registered for orientation. We kind of have it on lockdown. And so you have to both complete the online pre-orientation as well as that in-person component. During June and July, you register in person. August, you're going to have that pre-registration effort. And so advisors are going to send you your schedule in August, and then you can connect with advisors in person when you come about a week later.
Great. Yeah, and a couple parents are just wanting a little bit more clarification on what campus lodging would look like if they were to attend that parent and family session. So is there a link we could drop in here that gives them more info? How do they request it? What is the cost? If you could just touch on that one more time.
Yeah, so there's kind of two different routes that parents and family members can take. Just by signing up for parent and family orientation, you are not signing up to stay on campus. And so if you would separately like to stay on campus, we have that conference services link, which we will certainly share out in our materials. It's on our website. It's already linked out. So that conference services link is where parents and family members can request to stay in a residence hall room for $50 a night. We always like to be transparent. It's a residence hall room. It's not a Hilton, but by all means, it is the cheapest stay and it gives you a taste of what your student is going to experience in the fall. The second option is that we do have a suggested lodging page that has hotel discounts, kind of partnerships that we have here in town. And that's a great opportunity if parents are preferring to stay in a hotel or motel or something like that, then we do have a couple discounts for them to check out there. Sometimes it just depends on the family. Some people want to go camping down in Yellowstone or stay with some family friends or check out an Airbnb. And so we kind of see a mix of lodging options for our parents depending on what works best for the family.
Great. And looks like we have time, kind of running out of time here. One last question then. Is there any recommendations on what a student should pack or bring to orientation? Will they be receiving a list?
Yeah, so actually on their confirmation page, once they register, we have a list of suggested items. So it's everything from good walking shoes, a water bottle, maybe a fan if it's supposed to be super hot and they're staying in the residence halls overnight. Definitely whatever's going to make you feel comfortable and confident during your stay. One thing I always do like to clarify is that bedding is provided, so you don't need to bring like your duvet cover and all the things, but we got you covered there. Anything else that you might want to pack, we have that list posted and you can certainly go over that as well. Anything that might make you feel confident in your stay here at orientation.
Great. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you everyone that attended today. I hope you guys got a great amount of information from our orientation team here. We're going to wrap things up because it's 7 o'clock, but as always, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in the Office of Admissions or to our orientation team directly. Again, this webinar has been recorded. It will be posted to our webinar Wednesday page at montana.edu and on our YouTube channel, probably within the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you're looking to watch it again and touch base back here, you can check there in the future. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.